I guess if you're talking about women in the age group of 50, it's women who are hitting menopause. If I could talk about menopause, it's not a sexy thing to be able to talk about. So I sort of feel that, you know, if there are things that women need to become better at, is talking about the inevitable and being able to live a better quality life. So if you talk about the invisible woman, this is something that's not spoken enough about. I'm sure that you know, get enough, I guess, things in terms of other women hitting the ripe old age of 50, but that's something that I'd put on the table that's not spoken enough about, and that's menopause, because it's almost like a taboo subject, but it's an inevitable thing that women have to deal with. So yeah, it's you know, people have their preferences, or do they want to handle this in a natural way? From my own lived experience, it's a very difficult thing when it's all to do with your hormones and the imbalances of hormones. So hormones that you don't produce anymore because of the age. So yeah. Well, it's interesting because if you're saying an Indigenous woman at the ripe old age of 50, what Aboriginal women go through when they're 50s is where probably non-Indigenous women are in their 60s. You know, I was a grandmother at 38. Normally, non-Indigenous women are, you know, having their first child at that age. Second child. I was a grandmother at 38. It's hard when you know, if you don't know the whole context of Aboriginal women, you know, it's, my mum was a stolen generation, my grandparents as well. So you can only control the controllables, you know. I guess if there's a message now is, you know, I talk about all the time, kids having access to education, you know, going to university, and if you are that kid and you have a parent who's in their 50s, is to look back at the opportunities that you have now that have been afforded to you and that your parents didn't have. So it's no good worrying about the things you can't control, you know, but what you can control is, you know, the movements of your children and your grandchildren, and encourage them to, because it's hard, you can't accumulate wealth really when you're at that ripe old age. So I guess it's the things that you can control is your kids. I think things are getting better. You have to be optimistic, and certainly, you know, there are a lot more women now in federal parliament, state parliament, women who are ministers, and so, you know, you've got more people who do have a voice as opposed to those who didn't even 5 to 10 years ago. And, you know, you can have a voice, but you got to ask the question, are you being valued and respected, and what do you do with that leadership and that position? Stop wasting your time on things you can't control, I suppose, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's hard because all my flaws and all my faults and mishaps have shaped me into the person I am today. So it's hard to go back, and who would want to live a perfect life? So, yeah.